Coach Abel here along with my colleague Kevin the Machine Weiss of the Able Body Experts, and this is a Coach 'em Up session, Letters to the... I'm going to sit to read this because it's a long one. So it says, Dear Coach, I've started having trouble maintaining the weight lost from a previous diet. So I resumed the diet, but this time I added cardio and weight training. I was able to maintain the weight loss, but was becoming bored with the routine and lack of progress. This is when I met, completely by chance, a personal trainer who specializes with bodybuilders. I decided to give bodybuilding a try, and that was 20 weeks of hell. I went from 147 to 125 and made the stage as a middleweight. The next year I did, lost my way here. The next year I did it again with the same trainer. Okay, a few points to make this far along the way, Coach, and one of the things is, you know, the lack of the boredom in the routine and the lack of progress. As how often do we tell people, Coach, progression should be written into a program, and progression goes from one program to the next. If there isn't progression involved, it's not a program in terms of one-to-one, next to next. Any comment, Coach, before I continue?
Yeah, I was just thinking of when you, I think it was right at the beginning there when you mentioned that, and it's a typical thing we hear all the time where they've lost weight doing a program and then they go back to doing that, but all of a sudden that program doesn't work anymore, so then they have to add extra to it and add extra to it, and obviously that's a road to nowhere when you have to keep adding stuff to your supposed program.
And if it worked, the program and diet worked the first time, there would be no need to go back to it.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't rebound in the first place.
Exactly.
Allow me to continue. So, you know, as the lady says here, the next year I did it again with the same trainer. All I have to say on that is the old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't know, anything to add there, Coach?
Yeah, it becomes very common in the industry too, and we see that all the time as well, as where somebody has gone through, she mentioned that was 20 weeks of pure hell, I believe she put it.
Yes, yes.
And
they go back to it.
If someone put me through 20 weeks of pure hell, I'm not sure I'd be returning to that for a second round.
And you know, and that's the problem is you know, people don't know the difference until things start to go wrong, and then they usually end up at some point in our lab, you know, because of our reputations for dealing with this kind of thing. So anyway, she goes on to say, I told you this is a long email. That year the weight loss became even more difficult. My trainer explained that this was perfectly normal. Listen, common doesn't mean normal. It happens all the time, doesn't make it normal. It means your body is building up a defense against what it understood threatened survival from the previous diet. And I have explained this before in terms of metabolic set points and how your body responds. So common doesn't mean normal, okay, Coach?
That's what people are led to believe, though, for sure, and that hit it right on the head where her coach said, this is something that's to be expected. Essentially, that's what he said, was this is to be expected. Well, no, it is to be expected because it happens so often, but it doesn't make it right.
And then she goes on to say that the trainer did not explain why it was normal. He probably didn't know why. I hit the stage very soft that year. I shouldn't even have been there. And, you know, to my mind, that should have taught this person writing the email something way beyond the stage appearance. And this is the problem. They get lost in the stage appearance, Coach. So, again, most ladies, they miss the lesson by focusing on the result. In essence, the body was trying to protect her from what she was doing, Coach.
Yeah, and quite often what will happen there is the ladies turn that inwardly on themselves, and they blame themselves and think, well, I didn't do enough cardio. I wasn't
strong enough.
Yeah, I didn't do everything hard enough. I didn't do my diet hard enough. So they return to this program again, and once again they start adding things to it, and it becomes more of a downhill slide.
Piling on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. So to continue, last year I thought I would try again. So 3 years in a row, 3 shows. This time the trainer said I'd need 24 weeks of contest prep. I was on about 1,200 calories with no carbs except for veggies and 3 hours of treadmill per day in conjunction with weightlifting and practicing my posing routine. Listen, when I see 3 hours of cardio per day on top of training, 2 things come to my mind. One is, don't you have a life to live? And secondly, it means the trainer doesn't understand the first thing about energy metabolism, because if you're doing that much cardio and that low of calories, then any weight training you're doing is actually pronouncing the effect of gluconeogenesis, which is using the muscle tissue actually for energy. Anything to add to that, Coach, before I continue?
Yeah, it's just a very basic concept that people think that, well, if you're not losing weight, you just need to create a bigger deficit. But like you just mentioned, well, all that's going to do is burn up more muscle mass. Right. It's not going to get you any leaner.
And it actually costs, because the body starts protecting itself by building up its capacity to get fat.
Yeah, your body doesn't care if you have a ripped set of abs or anything.
No,
it
wants to survive.
Exactly.
So let me continue, because and the reason we're doing this, Coach 'em Up, is this is such a typical email question and such a typical example of what goes on out there in the world of the blind leading the blind. So, a month out from my show, I gave up and withdrew from the show. No surprise there. My weight was not moving. So 3 hours of cardio, 1,200 calories with no carbohydrates, and weight training and posing practice, and her weight's not moving, Coach. If that isn't spell an emergency mode to people that understand metabolism, nothing will. So, you know, anyone who's read my stuff or listened to my MP3s knows I'm not surprised when I hear a statement like that. Anything to add, Coach, before I continue?
Yeah, that's the thing. When somebody has got to that point and they've created that absolute of a calorie deficit and nothing is happening, it just makes me shudder to what's actually going to happen to this person in the future.
And the real expert message at that point would have been to spike calories. Not to cut them more.
Yeah, to get the metabolism working again, because obviously the metabolism is so shut down at that point in time that to continue, you'd actually see people at that point in time probably cut calories even further.
Yeah, which is insanity. So, continue on, almost done. And she says, fast forward to today, weight loss has become next to impossible. I've tried it all. High carb, low carb, no carb, Atkins, Pritikin, and everything in between. And my comment to that is, listen, the more you pinball from one diet to the other diet, the more confused your body's going to get, and the more it's going to stay in its protective mode, protecting you against starvation, because you've programmed it to do so. So it's not going to, it's going to regulate weight around a higher set point, a higher body weight, and that's why you're not losing fat, because you programmed it to be fatter and fatter. Coach?
Yeah, this is where example of where you've put your body into such a defensive mode that you don't have a chance to lose any of that weight, and you have to do what we do with clients and start rebuilding and trying to repair that metabolism as best as possible, and maybe,
which can take years.
Yeah, if at all. But that would be the goal anyways, is instead of trying to find a new diet or another approach to diet, it's just getting back to normal here.
And finally, her last paragraph is, I've tried various different local trainers with no results. The more I diet and worked out, the more weight came on. My desire to work out is almost completely gone now, and my weight is up to just over 200 pounds, and it ain't pretty. And listen, this is the thing here. She started out at 147 pounds, healthy, and now through 3 or 4 contests is well over 200 pounds, feeling shame, feeling guilt, and not even willing to go to the gym anymore. And this is the pronounced effect of competitionitis or over-dieting that we see over and over again, and why we write and talk so strongly about what's going on in the industry. And this was why it was essential to do such a long Coach 'em Up on this email letter. Anything to add, Coach?
Yeah, I just don't want to prolong this too much longer, but we see it all the time with people that come off of a competition diet, and the next thing you know, they're back in the gym and they're doing more cardio, and they're trying to maintain ridiculously low levels during what we would call the off season, and people just aren't understanding how important the coaching process is year round to get their bodies working normally.
And as I said in the Able Approach book, my observational experience is that the ladies who have done the most cardio for a contest are the ones who get the biggest rebounds of fat afterward.
Absolutely.
And this has been a very important Coach 'em Up.